Hello everyone. In this video, we'll discuss about the cookies. As we have already discussed HTTP protocol, and we have said that HTTP is a stateless protocol. It does not maintain any of the past records of the client request. So the server can handle daily thousands of client requests. So we need to store the user preferences. That is, we need to keep track of the records of the activities of the user. For that purpose, we use cookies. So cookie is a small text file that is stored in the user's computer either temporarily or it can be permanently in the hard disk of the users. So cookies, they provide a way for the website to recognize you and keep track of your preferences. That is, it provides a way for the website to recognize you, means it keeps track of the records of the activities and our preferences, and which website we have visited. Everything is stored in the user's hard drive. So let us understand the working of cookies in detail through this animation.
If you read the news every now and then, you've probably heard of cookies on the internet. But what exactly is a cookie? When cookies were invented, they basically were little documents containing helpful information about you and your preferences. For instance, imagine selecting a certain language for a website you'd visit. You tell the website, hey, I'd like to view your website in, say, English. The website would then save that information to a little document, a cookie, on your computer. The next time you'd visit that website, it would be able to read the cookie it saved earlier. That way, the website could remember your language and let you view the website in English without you having to select your language again. Pretty handy, huh? But cookies are not limited to remembering just your language. In fact, a cookie can contain pretty much any kind of information. It can contain the time you visited a website, or it can contain the items you added to your shopping basket. It can even contain all the links you clicked on a certain website, much like leaving a breadcrumb trail on the internet. A cookie can only contain so much text, but apart from its size, the possibilities are endless. What exactly is saved to a cookie is up to the creator of the website you are visiting. Now, contrary to the stuff a cookie can contain, there are limits to who can read your cookies. Imagine you first visit the website we talked about earlier, and you tell that website that your language is English. This is then saved to a cookie on your computer. If you'd visit a different website later, the latter wouldn't be able to read the cookie from the first website. In other words, only the same website that saves information to a cookie can access it. Since the beginning of cookies, the popularity of these clever little helpers exploded, and they gradually evolved into a more complex, yet essential part of the internet. During their evolution, the amount of data cookies contain started to grow. At first, they'd contain just a few preferences, like your language, and maybe your preferred layout for a website. But soon, developers realized that the more information they could store about you, the better they could suit your needs. Cookies started containing more and more data, and eventually started pushing their size limitations. Subsequently, developers came up with a clever workaround. What if they would simply store a unique ID in a cookie on your computer, and save the rest of the data in their own system? That way, they could save unlimited amounts of data. The cookie would simply serve as an identifier for your computer, much like a dog tag by which the website can recognize you and look up your data in its own system. This was the first leap towards so-called third-party cookies. As mentioned, only the same website that saved data to a cookie can access it later. But one website can actually contain bits of another website. These bits and pieces of other websites, embedded in the website you're visiting, are actually able to access cookies they saved to your computer earlier. Imagine visiting a news website. Apart from news articles, many news websites contain a couple of ads. These ads are in most cases bits of other websites, embedded into the news website. Now, the news website you're looking at may not have saved any cookies to your computer, and thus know nothing about you. But where do the ads come from? It's not unlikely that the ads on the news website are embedded from the same website as the ads on another website you visited earlier. In fact, you may visit dozens of websites with ads which are all embedded from the same website. So what does this mean? This means that if the website the ads come from has saved a cookie to your computer earlier, it can identify you and save information about you through other websites. So while you're reading that news website, shopping for new shoes, looking up cures for a headache, or reading the latest gossip, The ads on those websites can identify you, look up your information in their own system, and dynamically show ads that you're most likely to be interested in, while simultaneously saving information about what you're doing online. So is this a bad thing? Are cookies dangerous? That depends, really. It is up to the creators of a website to determine what information they do and do not store, and more importantly, what they use that information for. Cookies are just a tool. Just like a hammer or a saw, they can be used for bad things, but they are intended to be used for good things. The responsibility lies with the people putting them to use. Cookies in a nutshell.
And in this, you have a privacy setting, which is whether you are going to accept it or not, that is being indicated here. So this cookie, it contains the information about the website called as springeropen.com. So it is going to store the information about this particular website. And here, every website, they are going to use the cookies. And let us see the main components of this cookie technology. So cookie has 4 components. First one is the header line in the HTTP response message and header line in the HTTP request message, that is the next HTTP request message. And cookie file can be kept in user's host and which is managed by the user's browser, which means that it is present in the client host and it is managed by the server and backend database of the server. So here we can find the cookies components. And let us see a real-time example. And this is the example that we are going to face it. That is, we are going to face this situation in our day-to-day life. There is a person called as Susan who always uses the internet from the system. And that person is going to visit specific e-commerce website for the first time. So we have to underline this first time, because when a person is visiting that website for the first time, a cookie gets created. And it's going to create a cookie ID in the server backend database. When initial HTTP request arrives at the site, that is the website server, the server is going to create unique ID entry in backend database for that particular ID. We'll see this with an example. Here in this video, the client, you can see the client, server and a backend database. Now, already the client has visited this shopping website eBay, and the eBay cookie, it is already stored in the client computer, and the ID for the eBay website is 8734. So already client has visited this website and cookie has also been created to that as 8734. After some time, the client visited the website www.amazon.com for the first time. That is, for the first time, client is visiting this website from that particular system. So when client creates a communication and it's going to send the HTTP request message to the server it's going to create a cookie ID, that is 1678 for the server. And after creating the ID, it is going to store that ID, that is cookie ID, in its backend database. So it's going to create the entry in the backend database. After creating the entry in the database, the server sends that particular cookie ID back to the client along with the response message. So this response message contains the request to the particular website, that is web page, to which the client has requested. Along with that, it has also got the cookie ID which has been set for that particular website, and the same is stored in the client database, that is in the client cookie. For eBay it was 8734 earlier, and next time the client has visited the new website Amazon and the cookie has been created here, that is 1678. So when the next time, if the client want to request something from the Amazon.com, it's going to send the message using the cookie as 1678. This happens, suppose you have entered some website for the first time, and Again, after some 5 to 10 minutes, if you want to open the same website, if you type first 2 or 3 letters of that particular website, you are going to get the entire website name on that particular screen. This has happened to us most of the time. That is because of the cookie, because the information is already stored in the system, and this cookie is going to fetch that information from the database. So we'll get the entire website name on our screen. And here you can see that Amazon.com is being accessed second time from the client, and it is done through a cookie. And here server, it is going to access that particular ID from the backend database, and it will send the response to the requested message. Now you can see after 1 week, again we are requesting for some data from the Amazon.com. Again it's going to fetch that data from the backend database. So this is going to remain in the database for the longer time. So how long it is going to remain in the database? How long the cookies will be stored in the client hard disk and server backend database? It is going to store there in the client hard disk until we delete them. Here this is the history of the internet I have used, and in that I have tried to clear the browsing data. For what website I have been browsing, for what kind of websites. Here you can see the browsing history and download history. The third option you can find here, cookies and other site data. So here I have accessed for 296 websites, and 296 cookies have been created. And if I click on this and if I press on clear data, all the cookies that were stored on my hard disk for those particular websites, they will be clear. That is, they will get deleted from my particular system. And this is how we can clear. Next, what cookies can be used for? Here, those cookies can be used for authorization. Here, authorization is nothing but providing the identity of the person. It can be done through username, password, or any kind of passwords that we are going to store on our system. Next one is about the shopping carts. Usually shopping carts, they are going to give the preference the person has asked for. That is, if we are searched for any kind of item in any e-commerce or shopping websites, that will be shown on as advertisements on the remaining websites. Next is about the user session state. That is, we are going to store the email IDs, passwords, their usernames, everything are stored on the system. That is, if you consider an email, if we store it as a username and password, and if you want to open it next time, you can directly get access to that particular email without entering the username and password. Here, how to keep state. HTTP is a stateless protocol, but cookies, they are going to maintain the state. That is, for which particular website I have visited last time, and any data if I am interested to access, everything will be stored in the cookies. So they are going to store the information about the user and for what data or for which object we have requested. Everything will be stored in the state. So cookies, they are the HTTP request and response messages. They are going to carry the state information. Cookies and privacy. Cookies permit sites to learn a lot about you. So as almost all the usernames, passwords, and for what object or which website we have access, everything is stored in the cookies. All the information about us is already stored in these cookies. So you may supply name and email to the sites. Name and email address, passwords, these will be given to most of the websites, and it's going to store that in the form of cookies. We can see a question here. With a neat diagram, explain the concept of cookies. Explain the working procedure of that. Thank you.